about 8 weeks ago, I could not do one single pull-up on this bar to save my life. And after watching tons of videos online, I finally was able to narrow it down to 2 exercises that got me all the way from 0 pull-ups to around 5 to 6 reps in a row, which is what I'm able to do now. And I do 3 sets of those, so I'm able to do about 13 to 14 reps per session. And I was able to get that much stronger in just 8 weeks with only 20 minutes per day. So I'm going to show you exactly what the workout routine is, and at the end, I'm going to give you some tips that I wish I would have done differently to be able to get you to be able to do even more pull-ups that I'm able to do now. So the first exercise that you want to be doing is negative pull-ups. Negative pull-ups can be done either with a chair, they can be done by jumping up to the bar, however you want to do it, just make sure you don't injure yourself on the way up to the bar. And there's a couple key things that you want to do while you're doing this negative pull-ups. The first thing is that you want to make sure that you're going as slow as possible on the way down. I'm talking about super slow. Now, when you're doing these negative pull-ups, you really want to focus on one thing. It's not really how you get to the bar, it's how you go down from the bar. So when you're up on that pull-up position, you want to make sure that you're pulling your shoulders inward so that your back is squeezing together down the spine. And you want to make sure that you're hitting that full range of motion, meaning you're starting all the way from the top and you're going all the way from the bottom. And then once you get to the bottom, that's when you let go. The second exercise that you want to be doing are those Australian rows. And the key things to remember with this is to be as parallel to the floor as possible. Actually, the more parallel you are, the more difficult this exercise is going to be. But if you're not able to go completely parallel, that's okay. When I first started, I was like at a 45-degree angle, and that's really the most important thing with this exercise is just focus on full range of motion, again, just like those negative pull-ups. And you want to also focus on flexing those right muscles. So again, just like the pull-up, you want to make sure that when you're pulling yourself up, your chest is as close to the bar as possible. You're really pulling those shoulders back together, trying to get them to touch each other. And then on the way down, you want to make sure that you do a full range of motion and just let those muscles relax. So now, how exactly do you use these exercises? Well, if you notice, both of those exercises are pull exercises. You're pulling yourself up. Those 2 exercises should be done together. You don't want to do one on one day and the other one on the next day because you want to make sure that you have around 48 hours of recovery. That's what I was doing. So the way that I implemented this was that I created a push workout and then a pull workout. And I just made it so that it was only 3 exercises per day on each of those days. So we got 3 push exercises and we got 3 pull exercises. But since there's such a variety of different grips that you can do for each of those types of exercises, I ended up doing a pull A, pull B, push A, push C routine. And I'll make sure to include that in my description so you can just copy that workout and do it like I did for the 8 weeks and see where you get to. Now, besides the actual exercises themselves, the one reason why I was able to get to where I'm at today was actually because of something called progressive overload. And I have a whole video dedicated to what progressive overload is, breaking it down. But essentially, all you want to do with progressive overload is every time you try one exercise, you want to do it a little bit better. So for example, if you're doing 3 sets of push-ups, right? Just average push-ups. And yesterday you did 3 push-ups on the first set, 3 on the second, and 3 on the third. And tomorrow it's time to do push-ups again. I want to try just increasing that by 1. If you could increase every single one of them by 1, that's okay too. I didn't do this because the thing is, I didn't want to make it too difficult on myself the next time that I would get discouraged to continue working out. So my goal with these workouts is to make it as easy as possible that I could continue to develop and grow and get stronger. But at the same time, I look forward to these short workouts that I know I'm going to kill compared to the last time. Now, the exercises are important. The progressive overloading is important, but make sure also that you're resting in between each set. When I first started working out, I was barely resting. I think I was doing like 1 minute, 2 minutes. And I figured that I personally needed 3 minutes for pull-ups. So for some of the smaller exercises like push-ups and dips, I only do about 1 to 1 minute and 30 seconds of rest. But for pull-ups and chin-ups, I try to do at least 3 minutes. Let's talk about some of the mistakes that I've done in these last 8 weeks that I think really kind of screwed me over here. The first thing is trying to use resistance bands. There's a lot of videos online that talk about using resistance bands to be able to activate your muscle to do these exercises. Honestly, guys, you don't need them if you're doing negative pull-ups and if you're doing Australian rows. Both of those exercises are good enough to be able to activate the muscles that you need to be able to do pull-ups. And I'm telling you this from experience. I did this myself. And I have a whole video talking about why I don't use resistance bands. So check that out. But save yourself the $20 to $30 on those resistance bands. Trust me, you only need these 2 exercises. Another thing that really messed me up when I first started this was the fact that I was trying to do too much. The reason I started doing pull-ups to begin with is because I recently got into calisthenics, and by recently I mean about 3 to 4 months ago. I tried like basically being good at everything. instead of focusing on the foundations. And I think that pull-ups are actually one of the most important foundation exercises in calisthenics. But basically the idea is that I was doing way too much. I was focusing on my legs. I was focusing on doing these crazy holds and everything. And therefore I probably was getting stronger overall, but it was such small increments that it just felt like it wasn't making a difference. So I decided to trim the fat off of all that stuff and focus on one thing at a time. So on this channel, moving forward, I'm only going to be focusing on one thing at a time. Now, while you're doing all this, you want to make sure that you're hitting a couple of things that everybody should know, but I'm just going to touch up on that briefly. First of all is your diet. I personally don't believe in having any calorie deficit diet or any stuff like that. I personally follow intuitive eating, and I have a whole video on what intuitive eating is from my perspective. But the point is that you want to make sure that you're eating enough, right? And what is enough? You're eating enough protein, carbs, and fats so that your body has enough nutrients to be able to continue getting stronger. Next, you want to make sure that you're sleeping enough hours. Everybody says this all the time. This is something that I personally struggle with. But if you can, really try to get enough hours. And actually, it's not the amount of hours, it's more about the quality. Of course, you don't want to miss hydration. So again, it's not a specific number. I know a lot of people say 8 cups of water and whatnot, but it's just more than what you do now. If you feel like you're hydrated enough, that's perfectly fine. If you only drink 1 cup of water a day, try to make it 2, and then try to get a little bit better like that. You know, it's all about that intuition and about making small, enjoyable increments to get better. Now, as far as cardio and warm-ups and stretching goes, I personally don't stretch at all. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm not as strong as I should be. So in the future, I will be incorporating some stretches after my workouts. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that and what kind of benefits it gives me once I start to do that. But I do warm up, and the reason why is because I have personally felt injuries coming. I've started to feel stiff neck. I've started to feel my shoulders starting to hurt. And through these warm-ups before the actual exercises, I've started to kind of diminish those pains. So I really recommend that you warm up, even if it's basic. I mean, I just do like basic shoulder movements, you know, neck, up, down, whatnot, you know, nothing too fast, nothing too crazy. You want to make sure you throw in some jumping jacks or a light jog around just to get that heart rate pumping. So you want to do that before your workouts. This just helps prevent any injuries, honestly. And if you do get injured, if you skip out on that and you do get injured, you're going to have to take longer than 8 weeks to get those pull-ups. So that definitely is important. And as I mentioned, cardio, it's not something that I personally do. I mean, I do think there's a strong benefit. I think there definitely is a correlation to more reps with cardio. But I decided not to include that as my first 8-week trial to being able to do pull-ups, because I want to be able to add things little by little and see how they help or hurt me in the future. So stick around to see those videos. And with all this information, just 20 minutes per day, in a few weeks, you should be able to be at where I am. Honestly, I think you can do better. So try to beat my score. Let me know down in the comments after 8 weeks if you were able to do better than I was or worse. And we'll talk about it. Let's see what happened to you in your experience. So in the future, if you're interested in watching videos about basically getting stronger and more athletic, doing the bare minimum and pretty much eating whatever you want, check out my channel. That's basically what I focus on. I focus on intuitive exercise in a freestyle way. So that's either surfing, basketball, whatever comes to my mind. That's basically what my channel is about. So check it out.